Starting?
Here we go. What's up, everybody? Bernard and Eddie coming at you with our live today, the evolution of she hair extensions. I am Eddie Ohanian. I got with me today Bernard Ori. What's up, Bernard?
Hey guys. Hey, so I want to say real quick right here in the beginning that I'm going to summarize this real quick for those of you that want to know the point, the beginning and the end real quick. And then as a couple of hair guys, we are going to nerd out for a little while on all the ridiculous little details. And I know some of you guys are going to have been here since the beginning, and some want to hear the beginning and some just don't care. So really quick, we are going to talk about how, and I want to see it in the comments, some of you guys still call this So.Cap, So.Cap hair. You call us up at the office. You answer the phone, Eddie, right? I want to order some So.Cap hair. And we just say, okay. And it's just not So.Cap anymore. It hasn't been for years. I mean, it's been, can you see this lady over here? She hair. It's she hair. But we went from So.Cap to She by So.Cap to straight she hair. There was a few years of each in the middle. And some of you guys just never did get that new name, even though that's what's on your package. Some of you are looking right now like, no way. I know it's still So.Cap because I deal with it on the phone. And they're like, I got the package right here. I say, look at it. Look at it. And they're like, oh, my goodness. You're right. It says she hair. So anything you want. So that's basically what we're going to do. But we got some pictures. We're going to show you some pictures of the old hair. Some of you guys are really going to like this because you're going to say, I used to use that. And I want that comment too. I want you to tell us what you used to use, if you still call it So.Cap, anything you want to tell about the summary history.
Yeah, it's let's just get right into it because we dug deep. We dug deep for these.
Yeah, we dug.
We dug deep for these. Here's the first one. This one here is the original bonds and the original hair. And what's
I forgot it was so curved.
It was so curved. Here, if I can zoom in over here for a second. Look at there on the left. That left bond, you could really see that curve, right?
That top edge, yeah. I mean, some people called the original bonds the fingernail bond because it looked like an artificial nail almost.
That's
and
right.
I wondered why they would call it the fingernail, but I see it now.
Because it was so curved up like that. What was interesting about this was the keratin protein was really high quality, and the hair was really, really high quality. And it was always interesting because they couldn't find the right way to put the two together.
Right.
You know?
We've always had the highest quality hair. I think that would be the thing to talk about right now is that's going to be the thing that was consistent from the beginning to the end, till now, no end to the present, I should say, that we've always had super high quality hair, probably the same quality hair, not to discount every company's ups and downs, but even our lowest downs when our customers were complaining a little bit, your hair quality's gone down. I would say, have you tried anybody else's? Because we're still way better at our lowest low. We were still way better than everybody else's hair at the time because I had friends using other brands. But look at the bottom of those bonds too. I mean, that keratin, even though it stayed in really well, do you remember why it was curved? Do you remember the original tool? It was just
that tool.
The name of it. It was just called a purging tool.
Yeah, it didn't have a name, right?
Well, that's what the industry called it. Just right. We didn't really have a name, but it was a straight hot rod with a little divot in it. That's why the bond was curved, because it would just kind of sit on that hot tool and slowly melt. And I think they called it a purging tool because it was so hot it would bubble. And I had heard educators call it bubbling out the impurities. I don't think there were really any impurities. I think that was just something people made up. But basically, if it wasn't bubbling, it wasn't hot enough, it wasn't integrating with all the clients' hair enough. And something to be mentioned here is that grouping of hair was 25 strands. We were selling in 25 strands.
Yeah, there were bundles of 25, yeah.
Yeah. So what's in the next? You want to say anything about this, or just go to the next picture?
No, and just the technology back then and the machines too. The machines weren't really a thing back then. They were just hard to use. So this was the next generation. Let's see if I can come up here like this. This was the next generation, and this is when we moved the machine got its first name. It was the Classic Genius.
Yes.
And we started bundling them, still in the 25s, but you know, they were able to figure out how to get a little bit more consistency. They were able to solve some of that inconsistency problems with the keratin, and they started stamping the hair into the keratin protein bonds.
Right.
You know, but the hair never changed. The hair was still awesome quality hair, so that was
So
really
still
cool.
pretty much a hand individual. Each one was made so there would be a little inconsistency because the groupings of hair were kind of hand picked and weighed on a scale, and so it was still a little variation. But I think the thing to be noted here is that I don't know if you can kind of point to the two different zip ties there to show we got the one big zip tie holding two, like show the little. You can
Maybe we
zoom in
could
a
do
little
one
bit
of
more.
these things here. So you got like the big zip tie down here.
Yes, which held together two packs of 25. So the big zip tie was around 50 strands, which we always called a bundle, but many companies were packaging hair in 25 strands and calling that a bundle. So I remember that was a little bit of confusion in the beginning because when people would call, they'd say how many strands in a bundle, or they would just assume we'd be like everybody else. Now, kind of zoom in and show the two zip ties if you don't mind. Maybe you could circle them also, because what we would do pretty often is allow people to order half bundles, is what we would call it, which was
You got me on
25
a technical
strands.
difficulty over here now. Oh.
That's okay. You got, but
Okay, here we go. Now we zoom in over here. Now you got the
there
two
you go.
little mini zip ties.
Yeah, there you can just pointing at them is plenty enough. You don't have to circle them necessarily, but you can see there. If we took that big zip tie off, then you would have two half bundles, which were 25 strands, whatever you called it. But you can also see at the bottom of each of those packages, the bottom of each of the not the bottom of the picture, but the bottom of the keratin bond, what I'm always looking at. It always seemed like that's where a little bit of that keratin either squeezed out or dripped out, and that's what always drove me crazy with the inconsistency there. I would always take my little nippers and nip off those little beads at the
Yeah,
bottom.
but I
Good.
tell you what, man, when they first started hand stamping them like this was the coolest thing. We
That's
were
the, I
so
guess you're
excited
right.
about it.
You're right. I mean, I'm a little critical and I'm always kind of picky looking for the next, like, what could be better? What could be better? But you're right. To think about it, this is when we really grew the fastest because we were so far ahead of
Well, this
everybody
was a
else.
different thing. Nobody had seen the smaller bond, and that was the other thing. These were smaller bonds comparing to those fingernail bonds, comparing to the rest of the
That's
industry's
right.
bonds. We had smaller bonds. They were easier to blend in. You know, when we were installing them, we were able to go a little bit higher up on the head. We
That's
were able
right.
to start
Yeah.
doing a lot of new things. And that Classic Genius machine was a cool little thing too, because the wand, the tool itself was like the
Yeah.
perfect size with the bonds. You didn't have to sit there and go up and down the bond trying to stretch it out.
And we went from that one single hot rod to a top and a bottom. So now
Yeah.
we're pushing the hair down into the heated part of the tool. And I think at this time, now Classic Genius, that was hot at the top and the bottom, right?
Was it? Was it?
I
Yeah, it
think
was. Yeah, it
Classic
was hot on
Genius,
top and bottom.
that
I
was
have no
the
more fingers.
first tool. That was the first tool that brought the heat to the top of the tool. Nobody else had that. Some of the companies that most people consider I mean, some of the top three companies in the country or in the world still use a tool that's hot at the bottom, cold at the top, and they push the two together. And I'm so glad you said this because this was revolutionary. They brought the heat to the top of the tool, and it wasn't very long after that when we realized we could turn our heat way down and become warm fusion instead of hot fusion with a very low temperature because we spread the heat out between two I don't know what we call it. We called it all kind of things: the machine, the applicator, the tool, the
Oh, the applicator wand. Yeah, we're the applicator wands. Yeah.
yeah. And so now by heating from both sides, we could have less damage, if you want to call it damage, but less potential for damage because of the low heat. And nobody else has ever actually caught up to that. And that was innovative back maybe 10 years ago.
Almost 15 years ago. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. So let's go to the next picture and see a little bit of the progression here.
So
And
then,
oh, still So.Cap.
So this was the original So.Cap packaging. This is uh, we'd have to self because all the hair would come all loose and we'd have to sort it
Big,
all out in the big
right,
bundle, and then we'd
right.
have to put them in these and staple the package together. And yeah, this So.Cap. I haven't heard that name in a long time.
So.Cap. Do you remember what the little dots were which made an abbreviation, what So and Cap stood for? Do you remember?
Society something.
Yeah, so the So was for society, but in Italian. So I don't know how to say society in Italian. And the Cap is capelli, which was hair. So it was basically society, hair society. I only speak one language. I know in most other languages sometimes the nouns and the verbs are reversed. And so basically in America it would mean hair society, but it was on there for like society of hair. And then they abbreviated at some point because the company's been around, I think, over 50 years now through at least 3 generations. So things have changed as we're showing the progression just an hour short, I don't know, between 17 and 20 years of doing this. I didn't actually stop to figure it out. Right around 17 or 18 years, we've been distributors for this. And yes, we used to pack this hair ourselves. So let's see that. And so that would be 25 strands was the least you could
It was
buy.
25 strands zip tied in a little bundle. Yep.
Zip tie. Yeah.
Zip tie. Yeah, we'd sit there and zip tie a
Right.
little
I
bundle.
mean, I know after duct tape, I think zip ties are like the number 2 survival prep tool you
It
should
really
have.
is. Can never have enough of them.
Duct tape and zip ties fix everything. So let's see the next picture. I forgot to order these pictures. What do we have next?
So then this was mind blowing when we started doing this. We started taking bundles from 25 and we started taking them down into bundles of 10. And we would
Yes.
just individually zip tie bundles of 10. And this was so amazing and mind blowing at the time because this was when hairstyles were starting to really become a thing with multi-dimensional colors. And this was actually from our user requests. People were
That's
saying,
right.
hey, when they were calling in, I don't need 25. I just need 5 of this color. I need 10 of this color. I need
Right.
20 of this color, whatever it was.
And what I found interesting at this time was there was some. Oh, I kicked my table. Sorry about that. There were some other companies that I was buying from before this company that would bundle their natural colors in 25s, but their fantasy colors in 10s. And so I think that was something we said, you know what, if some people are actually selling in 10s, this, like you said, made the dimensional color world so much more interesting because now that you could buy in as little as 10 strands, you could literally change somebody with one pack of hair, put 5 on one side, 5 on the other, and be a little thicker. Or if you did the traditional 100 to 150 strands, which would be 10 to 15 packs now of the 10, you could literally, let's just say you're going to do 15 packs, which would be 150 strands. You could literally do 15 different colors, which is rare. But you could literally do the rainbow on somebody.
You could do the rainbow. Yeah, I was just going to say.
I did the rainbow on one of Darren's nieces at a hair show one year. I remember doing a row of Roy G. Biv as much as we could. But I know we're super excited and reminiscent about a lot of the positive. I want to be totally fair and hit some of the negatives I see right here.
Oh,
what do you see? Oh, do it. What do you see here?
So, these bonds were smaller, right? They were already smaller, but then we would still go in and we'd still trim. We'd cut the bonds in half, or we'd split them in half, or we'd cut them in, horizontally in half. And you could see the bond on the right side, the far right bond over there. Sometimes you'd go in and you'd trim the bond down, and the whole thing would just.
Yes, I can see it now. Can you kind of point to it? Or
let me see
where the hair is revealed? I mean, you can see where, right in there.
I could
right
kind of do area. One of those there, right?
And zoom in if you can. I know, I'm sorry, giving you a lot of technical.
Can't zoom in at the same time and do
okay. But you can see where that hair is not touching the bond, right in the middle of that bond right there. So if you were to trim that bond
we can
down,
zoom in like this.
There you go. Yep. So if you were to trim that bond in half and make it shorter, which is what we taught, you would lose a little hair there. So we had to say, pay attention to each one. You're gonna, some of the bonds you can't cut as
Right,
short.
because it wasn't every single bond. You know, like
Right,
if I zoom in over there, you could see the bond on the far left and the couple on the
yeah,
far left. Those are still full
right,
bonds.
right. Now, another thing I see here, and I don't know if this was the time it happened or not, but the bonds became flat as opposed to that little
Hmm.
bit of curve that was in them, because they went from very curved to a little less curved to completely flat. And my first thought was, I remember now, it's so weird how this stuff comes back to you. I totally forgot that I hated flat bonds because you don't ever like change, you know? You get so used to something, you feel comfortable with it. And the tool had changed to a flat tool on
Hmm.
and heated at the top and the bottom. And I didn't mind the curve because I felt like I had that little cup and I put the client's hair in that little curve and it stayed in there nice and neat. And now I'm trying to lay the client's hair on a flat bond. And because of my old finger positioning, the hair would kind of want to just fall off the edges. I was a little spoiled, so I had to learn how to have better finger control, make sure the hair stayed in the middle of the keratin. I know we are nerding out right now. This is bringing back such memories, good and bad. I mean, I was making tons of money doing this, but I
Well,
could literally,
were we the first ones to come up with the flat method too?
I think we were. I really do.
Nobody
I mean,
had that flat method. Everybody, we'd say, oh, I'm going to do flat bonds on you. And people look at me and say, what are you talking about?
right. Doing a flat bond. What do you mean? Right. What does that even mean? You had to show them. And you're right. We did. First, we had flat bonds, but we were still rolling them. So
We
you're
were
right.
still rolling them in.
Still so many companies only roll and do round bonds. They go in there and roll that little bond round. And there's nothing wrong with round bonds. I mean,
No, it works for everybody's got their way, right?
so many people, but technically a round bond took a section that was whatever width the section was, and it would come in to get rolled. It was like a little ponytail and then flare back out.
Hmm.
Whereas a flat bond starts wide, stays wide, and in the bond area and comes, so the hair would just flow straight out. And you could, what we found was we could put a lot less hair in because there was no gaps between them, like a little teeny bunch of little teeny tiny ponytails. So I have to say the flat bond, I fought it in the beginning. It was a little slower, a little harder. It was a little bit of a learning curve, but man, it was the thing that changed my business. Because let me throw a little curveball in here that we didn't even talk about. We don't even have them in our notes. Cold fusion.
Oh, man.
What
When,
happened with that? So right before the flat bond, a few companies as well as us were trying our hand at this cold fusion. And sure, cold sounded great. It sounded like it was less damaging. It sounded like it might be better, faster, easier. The machine beeped when the start, beeped when the end, but it was, I never, don't tell anybody, but I just never did really like that cold fusion. And I know a few people out there still using it, and I apologize. But
that cold fusion was a race against time. and, and that beeping, if anybody was ever shell shocked or had PTSD for, that beeping would set you off, man.
oh, that's right,
Just
huh? And you
not
couldn't turn it off.
stop.
You couldn't turn it off. Now, some people are still using it, and that beeping sets them apart from everybody else. And God bless you. I mean, I know that you love your cold fusion. We still sell hair to a few people that love their cold fusion machine. I can't believe they're still working because we hadn't used them in a few years. But let me tell you what our experience, and some people didn't get all the same experiences we did as educators, distributors, hairdresser behind the chair, and as a businessman. We're seeing all angles. And when cold fusion came out, there was a bunch of points and upsells about it. And one was that the bond was flat before we did it flat with a heated tool. And so the bond was flat, and it was like, wow, that's pretty cool. That was one benefit. Of course, there were other benefits. And so that flatness was great. But then trouble at the factory. They weren't working right. They recalled all our machines, and then they waited 6 months or a year to come out with it again. And somewhere between the first and second, or maybe second, third generation cold fusion, we got spoiled, and we're like, we like flat bonds. We don't have the cold fusion machine anymore. Let's try it with the hot tool. Well, the hot tool is flat on the top and bottom, so it spread it nice and flat. So all we had to do is fold it instead of roll it, and it looked great, and it was even flatter in cold fusion. And I think that was between first and second generation, because then
Yeah.
we came out with it in the cold fusion third generation, and we're like, What's the benefit? I'm faster. I can do it flatter. I can do it better. And they're like, oh, well, it's timed. It's cold. It won't burn the head. You won't take a chance of burning the hair. And I'm like, okay, well, same thing with a flat iron. If we leave a flat iron too long, we risk burning the head, you know? So sure, we're expecting stylists to be more professional and not burn anything because so I've always felt like they should be able to use our hot tool. I mean, come on, we put hot tools in their hands already and ask them to be responsible. So to me, it was more creative, just power, more creative power with a hot tool, warm tool. And we could get a flatter. So that's why cold fusion was kind of obsolete by the time it came out that last time. Any experience with cold fusion yourself that you want to bring up?
It was I loved the cold fusion machine just because it was a race against time. That was when during the trainings we really figured it out. If you recall, Bernard, when we used to do the time trials and we used to say from start to finish, taking a section of hair to getting the bond fully installed, if you could do it under a minute, that's when we really started figuring it out that this is how you could start blocking out your time slots in your book, and you can start doing 2-3 extensions in a row in the same day. Because back then, extensions, I mean, you'd block out one extension for 5 hours. You didn't know.
One for the day.
Right. It was one for the day, and that was you were one and done, you know?
But it was a good payday. All I needed was one a day.
I bet, right? But that was, and it was great and it worked. But that was the one great, there was a couple of great things about cold fusion. That was one of them, was that it really helped us realize how to get our timing down and the importance of timing. The other thing that was cool about it was it really taught you how to fold your bond properly. Yeah. Because if you didn't get it proper and it wouldn't lock in, it would come right out.
That's true. So it also brought us to the flat bond.
And it brought us to the flat bond. So there was the great things that came from the cold fusion.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I don't have my computer plugged in, so it went a little dim just now. Is it looking dim on your end? It might just be my battery saver or something.
That's your battery saver. You're still okay.
Yeah, good. Okay.
What do we got here?
So,
okay.
What do we have here?
This one, this is when we went from the 25 strands, down to 10, and we were
zip tied.
They were still zip tied, but we were able to send them in bundles of 10s. So they used to come in big, fat bundles of like 250 to 500 strands, and we'd have to sit there and count them all out one by one.
Right.
So this is when they started coming in pre-made little things of 10. We didn't have to sit there and count them all out anymore.
Right. So they were still zip tied in little groupings of 10, but they would put 250 together. We'd cut the big zip tie, let it all right. So go to the next picture. I think it starts to show a little bit more.
So this packaging now, this is when we became, so there was three significant changes in this.
Yeah.
They came in increments of 10, but they were pre-made from the manufacturer in increments of 10.
Yes.
The other big change to this was, and we can go through each one if you want. The other one was we changed branding from She by So.Cap. We weren't just So.Cap anymore. We were She by So.Cap.
Right.
And then the other big thing was the generational gap, or the generational change in machinery. We went from the Classic Genius to the Fire X. And that's when it really started incorporating cold fusion into warm fusion. That was the first generation of machine that it started bringing them both together. We were actually training people to go to 110, 115 degrees.
Yeah,
that's how low we were going.
Yes, I mean, and is that 110, 115? That was Celsius, I believe, huh?
In Celsius, but if you convert that into the Fahrenheit for Americas, it's approximately 300, give or take 300 degree Fahrenheit, which is still less than 400.
Right.
The point of the natural resistance of the cuticle.
Right. So most flat irons and curling irons go to about 450, I think would be the top
450,
temperature. Yeah. So 300 is relatively low to be able to heat something up and it look like it's melted and still stay in the hair. So one of the things I want to mention here is we had a little bit of a counterfeiting, copying, diversion problem at this point. Some people were copying the name So.Cap out
So.Cap.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and trying to do things. So just to differentiate ourselves and become a little more, I guess, just a little more unique and individual and not try to sue all the other companies out there that were using a different name. We just changed the name and thought it'd be so easy. And people still
Well, look,
we called it for 2 or 3 years. We still called it So.Cap because look, it's on the packaging. But even that She by So.Cap, I mean, it was just enough to
we
keep
had
So.Cap
great quality hair. We've always had great quality hair. We still got great quality hair, and it was worth stealing. You know, it was worth copying.
That's true. I'm right, right. And that's, that's funny because that's what we say with any company we ever educated with when the hairdressers get mad and say, I don't want to sell that product. It's in Walmart or it's in Target. Well, they don't copy the crappy products. They take the. So to me, it was always like a trophy or a badge of honor. They're copying us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like we must be good if they're copying us. That is definitely the telltale sign. So in this package now, this was prepackaged pieces of 10, right? I think your next picture kind of shows a package opened, right?
I think
Let's take a look at that.
No, okay, so this
Oh,
is
it's not. Okay,
this
so
is
what is this?
this is where we stopped using the name So.Cap because it had gotten way out of control, and we just became She hair extensions.
Yeah, you say we stopped. You mean we stopped on the package because some people still hadn't stopped. And I still want to see the comments below. I want to see people who, and don't be ashamed, just put a hand up or put me.
Yeah, right. Who's
Me,
still
sir.
saying So.Cap, right?
Me, sir. I still call it So.Cap. I mean, when we talk on the phone, I know I still hear it in the office sometimes. People
Oh
still
no,
say.
people still call and say I got to place a So.Cap order. Okay.
It was, yeah. I mean, and I'm gonna tell a little secret here that a lot of people don't realize what the S, the H, and the E stand for in she hair. Do you?
Was it Society of Hair Extensions?
Well, it's the S, the H, and the E is So.Cap hair extensions.
So.Cap hair extensions. Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we still kind of hung on to it a little bit, but we don't have that written out anywhere. It was just a little. I like the fact that it's she and extensions are mostly for ladies. I mean, of course, I put them on many guys' heads also, and as men's styles trend longer, you can, and it's a lot of fun. But I guess an Italian company using all ladies as models, she rocks. I mean, is that what we have? Yeah, she rocks.
She rocks
There's
poster.
so many hashtags we can use that empowers extensions and women in this situation, which is kind of fun just to play around with the word. But yeah, you're right. First time we went to straight up she hair.
Yeah.
So
then
now I think you have the picture of the package.
That's
open,
the picture of
There
the
you go.
packaging right there.
And if you look real close, there's 5 individual keratin bonds across the top, and then underneath it, there's another 5. So
It's another 5.
2 rows of 5. So that was packs of 10. What did you like most about this?
What was great about this was you could actually slip this out of the package, take 2-3 strands off, and then slip it back into the sleeve and save it for later. So it really gave the ability to customize and count things out the way we needed to.
So you know what? I'm going to say one of the little negatives. I'm a very critical person because I'm always trying to find the way we can make anything and everything better, and I have to apologize for it all the time because I see the challenges and the problems way before I should, and I kind of have to keep it to myself usually. But the very first thing was packaging in 10 did give us a lot more stuff to throw away. It was a lot more to open. I loved the options of hair, but I would get in some of the classes, each pack had a plastic sleeve and the cardboard backer. And it was like, I'm sorry, guys, I don't control manufacturing. We have some input. They'll change some things. Mm-hmm. So we are sorry. But why are we focusing on the negative? Sure, it's there. But one of the hugest positives I liked about this was backstage one day with Sandy. Sandy pulls this pack out, and you know how we trim all the bonds down? She takes a pair of scissors.
Oh, that's right.
She cuts across the plastic.
She went clean across the whole thing.
The plastic and the keratin bonds.
Yeah.
I was mind blown. I'm like, Oh my God. I used to pop one off at a time and snip it shorter. Now I went across, cut five. You had to have very sharp scissors and kind of support them a little bit. But you cut across all five, rip them off, put them on a hair comb rack, the table, a towel, your customer's lap, whatever your technique was,
Yep.
and then cut the next five. And I was like, oh my God, this, every bit of money I spent to get to this hair show was worth it because that just saved me hours of time.
Love you, Sandy. Thank you. Thank you for the greatest
Thank you,
obvious
Sandy.
thing ever.
I know, I know. It seems so obvious, but we're just doing what we always did because the new packaging lent to things that you could do different, but you're stuck in some old ways, like calling it So.Cap. The first thing I noticed here also is that beautiful silver blingy. Oh, it says bling above your head too. So that bling, that blingy look of the glittery logo. Go to the next one, and I want to see something. I want to see if something changes. So, okay, still silver, and some of our packaging, white background though. You notice that the white background.
So that was the big difference with these two. One of the things was this was actually from user feedback. So we get a lot of people would call in and say, I want to order 1001, and 1001 was, it's still very popular. So we, they'd get the hair, and then we'd get a phone call, and they'd say, this is looking brassy.
Yes.
1001's not brassy. What are you talking about?
Pop back to the other picture real quick so people can see. So the golden.
If I go back here.
Yeah, the golden background.
So you got the golden background, yeah. So they'd look and they say, oh, it's brassy. It's like, take it out of the pack. You'll see it's not brassy. And they're like, oh, that's so stupid. Why does it have a gold back? I'm like, I don't know.
We don't know.
So we put in the suggestions and due to user feedback, then they started making the white cards.
The white showed the truer color or made it look even more what hairdressers want to see. Even I do, more platinum look. But some companies label their hair for quality reasons, and they'll have their gold hair or their platinum hair. We've always had, from the beginning to the end, challenges with the keratin, but the hair has always been the best in the world, the best I'd ever used, and I always tested other companies, and so we never did come out with a level tiered system like our gold hair, our platinum, our silver, as to say some of our hair is better than others. No, our hair has just always been the same, always been the best, always better than everybody else's, and we didn't label it, even though the packaging has different colors on it, mostly for fun. I think the silvery colors look better in the grays. The golden package maybe looks better with the blondes, but it's really just creative difference from the owner of the company.
No, that's true. And that's what it's always been. The keratin's been high quality. The hair's been high quality. It's just been a matter of trying to get, the manufacturing down to assemble the pieces together, And now this is just another example of the different packaging. So it's not that when the packaging changes, when the imagery, this is a question I get a lot. Oh, I got a pack of hair. It's got a different picture on it. This is new. The other one was old. It's not that one was old and one was new. It's now that we're expanding the line. We've got ombre, balayage, rooted. We got the chatouche. We've got the fantasies. We got the mixes. The solid, wavy, curly. I mean, it's insane how many different things we've. What is it? Like 150 something colors now? How many colors are there?
I don't know how many colors we have on the coloring now. But every time we've counted, it's way more than anybody else. Yeah. Anybody else. More color choices than any company out there. And I mean, I don't know. Is that a good thing? I mean, I think
creatively, it's a great thing.
Yeah, it's a great thing. So yeah, and I mean, I can see why some companies would let you give you some options to your own coloring, and that's fine also. But this saves you so much time, so much time. It's already there. Which, of course, with some of the colors with the. Do you remember when we first did something that it was supposed to be an ombre, but they called it chatouche, right? That was.
It was the original two tones.
Right. At one point, we just called it a tea color.
It was a tea color back then. And if you remember, Bernard, this was, 10 years ago, something like that. They had blonde into blue and black into red. And everything that's trending now, we had those.
Right. We already had it. Now, I'm gonna go with this critique thing again and say that the thing that was challenging with that is we did have a pretty hard line in the middle because ombres in the very beginning
Mm-hmm.
were brown, blonde. Solid. It was a pretty solid line. And then as the line started to blend, we still had a solid line. And so then that's when Antonio came up with all the other choices. I'm going to grab my, I just got a warning, my battery's going low. I'm going to grab my little thing and plug it in while you go over a little bit more of this. I don't want to lose y'all.
Yeah, and that was also due to user feedback as well. That was one of the coolest things was we'd get to, because it was such a hard line and it was the top half was one, the bottom half was the other. It was even, right? And a lot of people would say, well, by the time we're putting it in and cutting and trimming and blending, you're cutting half the hair off. You're losing the bottom half of the color. So now with the chatouche, you got the first third is the one color, the bottom 2/3 is the next color. With the rooted, you got the first inch or two is dark, and then the rest of the hair is completely, the second color.
You know what we need to do is because I know people want to see pictures, and I'm sorry guys, we weren't set up for that. We need to do another video about all those different choices because you're right.
True.
We got the two different colors on top of each other. We've got blended colors that are next to each other. We've got the three different colors, a little bit of rooted, a little bit lighter, and then lighter at the bottom. So, and then we have the ones that are kind of two different colors at the top, but then go into a blended color. So without giving technical names, I just wanted to kind of describe them. So many choices now. Let's finish this history thing, and maybe next week we'll do that. We'll go over all.
The last thing on the history thing then is, Fire X was a great machine. Our current machine now is the Flat Magic.
Yes.
And that thing, I personally love the Flat Magic machine. The cord is longer. The power cord on it is longer. The wand cord is longer. It only has 2 prongs on the outlet. You don't have to find one of those 3-prong outlets. I know that's since we're nerding out. That to me is pretty cool.
Well, then I got something to mention too. In this game a few machines back, but the Teflon coating. We were so spoiled with the Teflon coating. Each generation of the tool got more Teflon coating and a better quality, so that when we heat the keratin bond up, it doesn't stick to it if you open your tool properly. And so you would find a lot of people doing this thing. And what are you doing? When they wax eyebrows, or when you wax eyebrows and you pull the stick away, there's a string. And so they're used to doing this with that stick, the stylists are. And so with the tool, when they come away, they'd expect keratin to come away. And it does if you don't open your tool before you pull away. They start to pull before they open, and you'd have a string, and they would do like this, and it would end up all over the tool. But if you could learn how to just pop that tool open, it all stays there. Well, when you use other companies' tools, there was no Teflon coating. There was no
Well, there was no temperature gauge on some of those. Some of those hand tools are just on and off.
That's true too. So they would get so hot, the keratin would be sticky, the metal that they're using would just stick. So there was always a mess all over strings of whatever product. I doubt most of them are keratin, but whatever that gooey, gluey mess was. So I'm not saying you can't make a gluey mess with our product if you use it a little wrong, but you could use it right and have the neatest bonds. I loved the Teflon. I was like a Teflon coating Nazi around my salon. When I was getting ready to do a head of extensions, I'd look around the shop and I had a favorite machine. And I actually lost a stylist, quit on me one time because I wanted to I bought all the machines from my salon, and I always let them know in the meetings that I was going to be using the best machine that we had in the shop when I'm doing extensions because my reputation depended on it. Well, this other stylist was using it one time, and I thought I was being nice. It probably didn't come across nice. And this was a long time ago. I've grown a lot since then. And I said, I brought another machine to her, and I was swapping them out. And she, oh, yeah, good idea. And she said, what are you doing? I said, well, I wanted to say, well, I paid for all of the machines in the shop. And it was a little rude, I know. But if they had a little silver dot in the center of the tool from being overused and it was worn out Teflon, it would be a little gooier and it would stick a little more. And I thought, you know what, if I spent $1,100 on each one of these machines and I got 4 or 5 more around the shop, I want the one with the most Teflon coating so I could zip through this client. And she got my machine out of my station, and I was just getting it back. She literally quit in the middle of a head of extensions in the salon that
Oh,
she was
wow.
doing. I had to put another stylist on it to finish it. That day we had it was either I think it was four heads going on, and two stylists working on one client. So there were five tools in the shop, and so there were two on one client, one on each of the other three. Me being that last one as I was coming on, and I shouldn't talk too much about this. I, I probably didn't handle it as good as I should have, and we're friends now. She's super successful in another salon, and we both apologize to each other. But I remember it was a weak moment, and I'm like, mine.
You look at it this way, Bernard. It's like when somebody goes to grab your shears or when somebody goes to grab your flat iron. You know, it's one of those things.
It is. It is. I was a little protective. My favorite machine. It worked the best. Yeah, but the Teflon coating was the real point of the story, not how selfish I am. And that Teflon coating, you just didn't have it on any. I don't even know if today on other companies' tools, I haven't seen it on any of them. So I mean,
No,
I'm sure we'll get in the
you
comments
got
if
that
there
little
are.
sponge thing on the top. You got the heat on the bottom. I still see a lot of those.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
but those
So,
I don't know if those are Teflon coated.
right. I don't know really either. So I don't really know how to wrap this up. We just wanted to kind of share the progression and ask you guys to please start calling it she hair because we're trying to. So.Cap doesn't even exist anymore. There's no So.Cap.
Yeah. No,
And I mean,
there hasn't been So.Cap for about 5 or 6 years. There hasn't been
right.
So.Cap.
No So.Cap, no platinum, no gold line. It's just all she hair.
Hmm.
And please comment below if you catch yourself saying So.Cap or still call it
Yeah.
So.Cap hair. I'm curious. I want to know. I mean, you can see the Facebook screen. I can't. So I don't know how many people have watched or commented. We'll see it in a minute. I'm gonna go back and look in a minute if anybody.
Anna and Kimberly say, "Hey."
Oh, hey guys. How are y'all doing? Y'all, you can tell I'm from down south. I say y'all, and Eddie says kala. Kala, how you say it? Because I say
Oh yeah, put me on the spot now, right?
say kala.
Color. Color.
All right, let's end this before it becomes too long.
Yeah, right.
Right.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for spending the time with us. Yeah, let us know your comments down below. We'll catch you all next time. Thank you.
Bye, guys.